My name's Colin. I live in Bath in the southwest of England. This is my channel, the A Nay or Meh channel. And once again, it's time to do some Oscar preview content. This is a video that I think a lot of people in the Oscar prediction, Oscar punditry sphere do. This is the Snubs video. We are a little over a week away from the 2026 Oscar ceremony, and it's high time I did this. I mean, I've been delayed because I had to replace my camera, but I'm going to discuss in this video, in the above the line categories, all the snubs, all the things it can't possibly believe didn't get nominated, as well as some performances and films that I just personally prefer. I think there are genuine snubs, which I will highlight as we go along, but mostly I think in this video they're not so much snubs as performances and films I just prefer. So yeah, it's interesting to discuss these things, or how you would have done it differently, how the Oscars got it wrong, so to speak. And I think one thing I do, which maybe other people don't do, is when I say something is worthy, something should have got nominated, I'm going to take something out. I'm going to specifically say what I would have replaced with what got snubbed. So, yeah, at the end of the day, we're going to have my personal list of nominees in the above the line categories, and what I think should win out of my personal nominees. And it's about 50-50 stuff that did get nominated and stuff that I've put in myself. But we're just doing the above the line categories in this video. So without further ado, let's just get on to the snubs and start with the big category. I'm just going to start with Best Picture. In general, I think they did an okay job with the Best Picture, but there are still 5 alternative nominations I personally would have made. And the first one is pretty obvious if you've watched any of my videos, and that is the fact I definitely would have put in It Was Just an Accident. It is my favourite film of 2025. I think it's Jafar Panahi's masterpiece. I am kind of upset that it didn't make the final 10 nominees. I think it was just a case of one too many foreign language films which were distributed by Neon in the US in the running. In fact, several too many, because no other choice got nowhere near it. I think it was just too hard to get another non-English language film in there, despite the fact this was the Palme d'Or winner. So yeah, I mean, I think it was genuinely upsetting, particularly when F1 made the cut. And that's the film I'm taking out. The first of these 5 films I'm taking out is F1. I kind of understand why F1 got attention. I mean, it's a particular type of film which sometimes gets into the Oscars. You know, the dad movie, for want of a better term. You know, Brad Pitt go vroom vroom. I mean, fast cars, big spectacle, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, F1 registered trademark the movie, which I always put in these videos, because I think it's absurd that F1 is a registered trademark, and that's technically the official title of this film. So I always put that in there because I think it's dumb, but at the end of the day, it's just a sports movie. And it's not actually a very good sports movie. I mean, there are some sports movies which absolutely deserve to be in the running for Oscars. Like Rocky is the classic example. That is a great movie and a great sports movie. F1 isn't. It's average at best. And it genuinely upsets me that F1 got into the 10 nominees for Best Picture and it was just an accident didn't. So that is the first change I personally would have made in the 2026 Oscars. The second alternative nominee I would have made, again, will not be a particular surprise to anybody who has watched any of my previous videos, because I am not a fan of The Secret Agent. I kind of understand why it got so much praise. I mean, winning Best Director and Best Actor at Cannes, and I'll be talking about Ragnarok later. I just wasn't that impressed. I mean, I kind of like the work of Clayton Mendonça Filho, but The Secret Agent just didn't do it for me, and I don't understand why it got as much praise as it did. So yeah, I am taking out The Secret Agent, and I fully appreciate and fully understand that this is a personal choice, but I'm taking it out. And I'm actually replacing it with a different foreign language film. The heartbreaking film, The Voice of Hind Rajab, which uses the real voice of a real 8-year-old Palestinian girl who was essentially killed by the Israeli Defense Forces. It's such a fucked up situation in Palestine that she was an 8 minutes drive away from help and from safety, but it took hours to even attempt to go and get her because of the situation between Israel and Palestine. And it's so depressing, and such an extraordinary piece of work from Katia Ben-Hania, the Tunisian director, who is, I think, genuinely one of world cinema's great directors at the moment. Apparently she's got a new film coming out which might premiere at Cannes this year, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, The Voice of Hind Rajab, I think, is a much, much better example of international cinema than The Secret Agent was in 2025. So that is my second alternative nomination. And now we're getting into a little bit more of personal preference, because the other three films I'm taking out, I mostly like, but they're not necessarily the types of films that I personally would have put into the Best Picture race. And the next film I'm taking out of Best Picture is Frankenstein. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which I mostly liked. I think it's an unusual approach that Guillermo del Toro took to this classic piece of literature. And it's interesting, certainly. It's decently acted, albeit in that florid gothic style which Guillermo del Toro is so fond of. But it works. I do think Jacob Elordi and Oscar Isaac are good, even Mia Goth in not a particularly big role. I just don't think it elevates itself to the level of a Best Picture nominee. I personally would have gone for the much, much smaller film, much more independent film, Sorry Baby, which I think is a breathtaking debut as writer, director and star for Eva Victor. I think it's an exceptional piece of work and an unusual piece of work. I mean, given the general premise of Sorry Baby, I don't think it goes in the directions I necessarily expected it to go, which is refreshing. And I think it's really impressive how thought-provoking it is, and yet how light it, well, relatively light, or certainly a lot lighter than it could have been. I think Sorry Baby is a brilliant piece of work, and Eva Victor is definitely a filmmaker to look out for. And yeah, I will be talking about her a little bit later as well. But yeah, I think Sorry Baby was perhaps too small a film, too independent a film to actually get into the consideration for Best Picture, but I think it should have done. So yeah, I would have picked Sorry Baby as my next Best Picture nominee. And the next one I'm taking out is Train Dreams, which I definitely enjoyed. I mean, I think Train Dreams is definitely a mood piece. It is a very atmospheric, somewhat ethereal film. The look of the film, the cinematography of the film is extraordinary. I enjoyed watching it. I just personally don't think there's a lot of there. It's very much a film where, nothing happens. I mean, yes, there's a big dramatic incident, to some degree an inciting incident in the middle of the film. But really, it's just a quiet, taciturn man living a quiet, taciturn life. And it looks beautiful, but is that enough for a Best Picture consideration? I personally don't think so. So I would have taken Train Dreams out and put in something a little bit more experimental, and something which I am currently representing with my backdrop when my local art house cinema sells their old posters for charity. That's my current choice, because I think Die My Love is brilliant, and Lynn Ramsey is brilliant, albeit the kind of director who is much more for cinephiles, for critics, rather than a general audience. And maybe that doesn't help her when it comes time for Oscars. But Die My Love, I think, is brilliant. I mean, yes, it's a very art house, it's a somewhat abstract film. I mean, there's stuff in Die My Love I genuinely don't know if it's actually happening or if it's just in Jennifer Lawrence's mind as she is slowly going crazy. Well, not so slowly going crazy. I mean, is the Keith Stanfield actually there? It's a genuine question, and we're not supposed to know the answer. It's that kind of film. I think it's brilliant, and it's an experience I thoroughly enjoyed. I think Jennifer Lawrence is brilliant, and I'll be talking about her later. Robert Pattinson is brilliant as well. And yeah, I think it was just too clever, too abstract for the room. You need to be on Die My Love's wavelength, and I'm not sure how many people were. But personally, I would have put it into the Best Picture consideration. And the final change I'm going to make is perhaps a controversial one. It is perhaps a provocative one. But in my list, I'm not putting Marty Supreme in. I'm on record as saying I am not a fan of the Safdie brothers' work. The films I've seen of theirs, particularly Hidden Gems, that kind of panic attack of a film, that anxiety inducing, never ending tension upon tension upon tension upon tension, it doesn't work for me. And it didn't work for me in Marty Supreme. Now, I think Timothée Chalamet and Odessa Zion are both brilliant acting performances in Marty Supreme. But I don't think the film as a whole actually worked for me personally. I think it is too much of that never-ending scam upon scam upon scam scheme upon scheme upon scheme, it didn't work for me. And I think the redemption that the Marty character has, it's too little too late. And I don't think it's earned either. I mean, he's been frankly, a complete bastard throughout the entire film. And then right at the end, he gets redeemed and we're supposed to be okay with that. It didn't work for me. So yeah, I'm taking out Marty Supreme, and I fully acknowledge that is a controversial statement. Might not be the most controversial statements I make in this video, but yeah, I take out Marty Supreme, and whilst I'm replacing it with, is a little bit ironic because it's somewhat in the same family, because Marty Supreme, alongside Josh Safdie, was co-written by a man named Ronald Bronstein. And Ronald Bronstein's wife, Mary Bronstein, is the director of If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. So these are people who all collaborate with each other. And to some degree, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You is a little bit of that anxiety-inducing film. But speaking personally, I actually appreciated that more than I did with Marty Supreme, because I understood the character. I can empathise with the character. This is a woman played by Rose Byrne who is getting completely overwhelmed. And Rose Byrne is deservedly getting a lot of attention for this. She's won some awards. She's not going to beat Jessie Buckley, but in most other years, I think Rose Byrne would have won Best Actress. And the film is getting a lot of attention just for the performance of Rose Byrne. But personally speaking, I think the film as a whole works really, really well. I think it is a somewhat similar vibe to Sorry Baby, in that it is a character study of this woman and her life and how she deals with her life. Not particularly well in Rose Byrne's case, but it is there. And I think the film, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, as a whole, does work. And for me, I actually think it should get a Best Picture nomination. So out of my personal list of nominees, I am just going to stick with what I've said all along. What I think should win the Oscar for Best Picture is a film that didn't even get nominated. It is my favourite film of 2025. It Was Just an Accident. I think it's a masterpiece. It's blending of the really, really tragic and the absurd and the thought-provoking, the philosophical question. I mean, what is vengeance? What is the right thing to do? Is there a right thing to do? I mean, it's a knotty problem, and it's also weirdly funny in places. So, and the last few scenes of It Was Just an Accident will haunt you. They certainly haunted me. So yeah, my favourite film of 2025, and what I think should win Best Picture, even though it wasn't nominated, It Was Just an Accident. And now we move on to Best Director. And I'm only making one alternative change in this. And it's basically continuing what I've just been talking about. Because I'm putting in Jafar Panahi for It Was Just an Accident and taking out Josh Safdie for Marty Supreme. I mean, as I said, I think this is Jafar Panahi's masterpiece, and that's saying something. I think he's got so many films on his CV which are impressive. And the way he does manage to blend the absurd and the horrific is breathtaking. And like I said, those final few scenes, they are directed incredibly well. And Josh Safdie, I mean, I get it. As I've said, it's just not my taste. Josh Safdie directing Marty Supreme is fine. But that kind of building building tension. Just doesn't work for me. So yeah, I would take out Josh Safdie and put in Jafar Panahi. And as for what I think should win this, I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson is going to win. I mean, I'm going to be doing a separate preview video, what I think will win, what I think should win later. And I'm actually just going to get a sneak preview here, because this is one of the categories that my personal winner did actually get nominated. And while Paul Thomas Anderson is going to win and is going to deserve to win, I think my choice would be Ryan Coogler for Sinners. I think Paul Thomas Anderson is going to win because he's due, but what Ryan Coogler did was genuinely impressive. I mean, the way he used the different formats, the IMAX format and the narrow format, and blended them together, the way he had all the different layers that there are in Sinners. I mean, it's a horror movie, it's a film about the black experience, it's a film about cultural appropriation, it's all of those things. And it's good examples of all those things. And of course, the one exceptional scene of cinema in 2025 is the I Lied to You scene. Arguably for that alone, he deserves Best Director at the Oscars. But it's going to go to Paul Thomas Anderson. My choice would be Ryan Coogler for Sinners. In the Best Actress category, I have 2 alternative nominations I would make. And the first person I'm taking out of this category is really, really easy for me. I just don't think Kate Hudson deserved this Oscar nomination. From all accounts, Kate Hudson is a very nice person. She has a lot of friends in Hollywood, which helped her get nominated. She has the wherewithal to have screenings and have, you know, the publicity, the behind the scenes stuff to get her an Oscar nomination. I'm sure she's a very nice person, and by all accounts she is. This performance just wasn't Oscar worthy for me. In the middle of Song Sung Blue, she does some Oscar baity stuff, some traditional stuff which tends to get performers Oscar nominations. But at the beginning of the film, at the end of the film, it's just a film about a middle-aged couple making music together, which is fine. I mean, I liked Song Sung Blue. I think it's a cute film. I don't think on any level it's Oscar worthy. So yeah, Kate Hudson, I really don't think deserved this Oscar nomination, particularly when Tessa Thompson in Heather barely got a sniff. It frustrates me enormously the way that Amazon MGM just dumped Heather. I mean, having 1 week in cinemas and immediately dumping it onto Amazon Prime. So I don't think enough people paid attention to it. Oh, it's just a streaming film, we don't need to watch it. When it's actually great. I mean, an adaptation and a clever adaptation, which I will be talking about later, of one of 19th century theatre's great plays. Tessa Thompson playing Hedda, you know, the version of Hedda Gabler, albeit updated to the 1950s. It's a really interesting, really complex performance. I mean, is she a victim? Is she a monster? Is she both? She is kind of both. And at different times in different parts of the play, she really plays it. And the way that Tessa Thompson plays it is exceptionally good. So yeah, it frustrates me enormously that Tessa Thompson didn't get nearly the attention I think she deserved for Hedda. I mean, yes, she did get a Golden Globe nomination, but I don't think that's enough. I think she should have got an Oscar nomination. And the second alternative nomination I would make in this category is one of the ones I struggled with, because I do genuinely think this is an Oscar-worthy performance or an Oscar nomination worthy performance. I just preferred something else. I'm taking out Emma Stone in Begonia. I really do think that Emma Stone is great in Begonia. The way she plays mind games with Jesse Plemons, the way she tries to manipulate him, it's great. I mean, and then there's some Yorgos Lanthimos wackiness towards the end. It's a great performance. It's a strong performance, and she did shave her head. I mean, it's stupid, but I do think that matters, that she was willing to shave her head for the role. I do think it's genuinely brilliant, and I do think it's genuinely Oscar worthy. I just prefer Jennifer Lawrence. I mean, this was an incredibly strong category this year. I mean, we're not even talking about Julia Roberts in After the Hunt, not a great film, great performance. Amanda Seyfried in The Testament of Anne Lee, she was great in that. Sydney Sweeney in Christie. Cynthia Erivo seemed absolutely guaranteed to get a nomination, second nomination in a row for Wicked for Good. But yeah, we all know what happened to Wicked for Good. So I mean, it was a really, really strong category this year, and there were so many deserving nominees. I prefer Jennifer Lawrence over Emma Stone. I think in Die My Love, she has a great portrayal of a woman having a very pronounced, very strong mental health collapse. This is a portrayal of a woman going crazy, somewhat similar to what Rose Byrne was doing in If I Had Legs I'd Kick You, but Jennifer Lawrence plays it really, really well. I think this might be her best ever performance, which is saying something. I mean, this is a multiple Oscar nominee. Is she a multiple winner? She certainly won at least once. But yeah, she's brilliant in Winter's Bone. I think off the top of my head, that's the one that maybe is better than Die My Love. But yeah, Jennifer Lawrence is great in Die My Love. And I do think she was snubbed for the Oscars, or at least I preferred her over Emma Stone for the Oscars. So out of my personal nominees, which you can see listed down there, this is one where it's just inevitable. I'm going chalk. Jessie Buckley is going to win, and I think that Jessie Buckley is going to deserve to win. I think she's brilliant in Hamlet, and there's nothing else you can say about it. I mean, I find it really, really interesting that Jessie Buckley is going to win the Oscar for Hamlet the same week or the week after. Yeah, the week after The Bride comes out. Maggie Gyllenhaal's take on Frankenstein. Really looking forward to that one. But anyway, it's impressive. And yeah, Jessie Buckley, I think, is going to win, and she's absolutely going to deserve to win, and she would be my choice in this category. So in the Best Actor category, I'm actually taking 2 nominees out, and the first swap I'm making is 2 things I've been talking about. If you've watched any of my previous videos, I've said all along that I think Jesse Plemons in Begonia is absolutely worthy of an Oscar nomination, probably even an Oscar win. And I'm just not that impressed with Wagner Moura in The Secret Agent. I mean, I'm not impressed with the film as a whole, and I'm not impressed with his performance. It just didn't do it for me. I mean, yes, there is some versatility with kind of multiple roles that Wagner Moura plays throughout The Secret Agent, but it didn't do it for me. I mean, I thought it was okay. I don't think it's Oscar worthy, so I'm taking out Wagner Moura, and I think Jesse Plemons absolutely deserves an Oscar nomination for Best Leading Actor. I mean, if Rose Byrne can get nominated and Jennifer Lawrence can nearly get nominated for playing crazy, why can't Jesse Plemons get nominated for playing crazy? Particularly when it's a very specific and a very unusual version of crazy. I mean, being this conspiracy theorist who is absolutely convinced, or has been part of an online community which has managed to convince him that this person in front of you is not the CEO of a chemical company. She's an alien from Andromeda, and we're going to kidnap her and keep her in the basement. Yay. And you see his background and see how he's been affected by his severely mentally ill mother, played by Alicia Silverstone, which is strange casting in a very small role. The way he has convinced himself, the way he constantly has to reinforce his own beliefs and beliefs on his mentally disadvantaged cousin, played by the autistic actor Austin Dalbis. The mind games between the two of them is really, really good. And I think Jesse Plemons is creepy as fuck, which Jesse Plemons can do very, very well. I mean, that one brilliant scene in Civil War with his wife Kirsten Dunst, and even in a comedy film like Game Night, really disturbing that as well. But he can also play really, really sweet, like in the TV show Friday Night Lights and Power of the Dog. He can do it all. And yeah, I think this is him at his creepy best. So yeah, Jesse Plemons, I think, absolutely deserves, at the minimum, an Oscar nomination for Best Leading Actor. And I just don't think McNamara did. So that's my first swap. And the second swap is another quite provocative one. I think that, impressive though his performance was, and on some levels I do think he deserves an Oscar nomination for Best Leading Actor, I'm taking out Leonardo DiCaprio from the Best Actor nominees. I do think that Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the great actors of this generation, or arguably the last generation now. But this performance doesn't especially stand out for me. I mean, playing this stoner wastoid who can't get the wherewithal to, rescue his daughter, even though she's in grave danger. He's just too stoned. I mean, yeah, that's okay, I guess, but playing a stoner ultimately is just playing a stoner. And I'm not so, I mean, he does it very well, but I'm not so impressed with Leonardo DiCaprio that I would put him in my personal list of nominees. And the alternative nomination I'm putting in is way out of left field. I fully acknowledge this. If you say, and I do say, that It Was Just an Accident is the best film of 2025, why not recognise the leading actor? Vahid Mobaseri. Arguably, It Was Just an Accident is something of an ensemble piece. And maybe that's one of the reasons why individual actors in the cast haven't really been picked out in any of the award shows, really. But I genuinely think Vahid Mobaseri does some extraordinary things in It Was Just an Accident, and he is the lead of the film, if there is a lead of the film. But it is kind of one of those frustrating performances where the really, really good stuff is right at the end and is kind of a spoiler. So I can't really go into it in detail, but trust me, towards the end of the film, Vahid Mobaseri acts. There's some extraordinary stuff he does, some extraordinary emotion he puts into the performance. And as I've repeatedly said, I think it is my favourite film of 2025, and why not recognise the leading actor or the lead of the film? I think it's an exceptional performance, and I mean, it was never ever going to happen. Even if it was just an accident, did get into Best Picture, this was never going to happen. But I do genuinely think that Vahid Mobaseri is worthy of a Best Actor nomination, so he is in my personal list. And as for my personal winner, I'm going to stick with my heart. I'm going to stick with what I've been saying all along. I think Jesse Plemons is the best leading actor of the 2025 Oscar season. I do think his particular take on mental instability, this conspiracy theorist who's whipped himself into a frenzy online, is actually acting on it. I mean, it's incredible the way he tries to manipulate himself. He manipulates his cousin, tries to manipulate Emma Stone and fails. All of it works really, really well together. And yeah, I think Jesse Plemons is the best leading performance of 2025. And he didn't get nominated. So moving on to Best Supporting Actress. This is actually one of the categories I'm really changing. I'm making 3 swaps in this particular category. And the first one is one I've been talking about in my videos a lot. I'm just not that impressed with Amy Madigan in Weapons. I think that kind of flamboyant, that kind of noticeable performance, in my mind, it doesn't necessarily equate to an Oscar nomination, particularly when it's in a horror movie. And in my opinion, not a particularly elevated horror movie. I mean, it was good, but it was just a horror movie. And this murder clown that Amy Madigan is playing, that's what we're giving Oscar nominations to now? Really? When you didn't give Toni Collette an Oscar nomination for Hereditary? When you didn't give a nomination to Hugh Grant in Heretic? This is the horror movie performance we're giving an award to, or a nomination to? No, I don't see it. Particularly when I do genuinely believe that Ariana Grande deserves her second straight Oscar nomination for playing Glinda in the Wicked franchise. I did expect Wicked for Good to do very poorly on nomination day. I mean, the buzz was there. Nobody liked Wicked for Good. I liked it okay. I mean, I liked the political stuff. But the fact it got completely blanked, at the very least, I expected Ariana Grande to get nominated. I expected the costumes to get nominated, and I expected The Girl in the Bubble to get a Best Original Song nomination. At the minimum, I expected that. It got nothing. And I actually think that Ariana Grande is deserving of a nomination for the second time for playing Glinda. Arguably, I think Wicked for Good is Glinda's story, whereas Wicked, the first half of the musical, is Elphaba's story, Cynthia Erivo's story. So if she's kind of the lead, and this is kind of a case of category fraud, then put Ariana Grande in there. I genuinely think she was deserving of a second nomination for playing Glinda. And the second alternative nomination I would make is kind of carrying on from what I was talking about earlier. I also think that the other performance in Hedda, that of Nina Hoss, should have got a nomination for Best Supporting Actress, just as Tessa Thompson should have got one for Best Leading Actress. To some degree, I think Nina Hoss is the core of the film Hedda, because her character which in the original play is a man who Hedda has had a previous relationship. In the film, it's a former lesbian relationship, which is a really interesting thing, which I'll be talking about later in the script category. But Nina Hoss is the pivot around which everything else revolves to some degree. It is Nina Hoss who the manipulative, sly version of Tessa Thompson decides, oh, I'm going to destroy her because she can. And the thing is, Nina Hoss lets her. Nina Hoss knows basically exactly what Tessa Thompson is doing, and she can't help but go along with it. She's that much under the thrall, under the spell of Hedda in this previous relationship. And Nina Hoss plays it exceptionally well. There's some stuff in here exposing this character, both metaphorically and literally. I think Nina Hoss is really, really good in Hedda. To some degree, I think she is the strongest performance in the film Hedda. And I do think she was deserving of a supporting actress nomination. And I would take out Elle Fanning for her. I think by nature and design, Elle Fanning is a secondary piece, an outsider in the film Sentimental Value. Sentimental Value is at its core a film about family dynamics. This father and his two estranged daughters. I mean, it's also very much about the blending and the contrast between art and real life, and making real life into art. Those are the two threads of Sentimental Value. Elle Fanning doesn't fit at all into the family dynamic. I mean, yes, she is part of the art versus life debate, but by nature and design, she is a fringe part of that, at least as far as I'm concerned. And much as I love Elle Fanning, I think she's awesome. Her and Dakota are both awesome. I don't see it, particularly when you already have Inga Ibstoss-Liljas in the film, and for my money, she's the much better performance. So, yeah, Elle Fanning drops away, particularly when you've got Nina Hoss there to take her place. And the third alternative nomination I would make is maybe a controversial one, particularly since Wunmi Mosaku won the BAFTA for Best Supporting Actress. I think it really, really helps that she's British, and therefore the British Academy wanted to recognise her, as they did Robert Aramayo, who personally would have been my choice anyway. I think he was brilliant in I Swear. And then the unfortunate incident with the real guy and the people from Sinners. But Wunmi Mosaku did win the BAFTA, but I liked her performance in Sinners. I think to some degree she is Basil Exposition. She is the one who kind of knows what's going on and kind of explains things. Is there all that much more to her character than that? I'm not entirely sure there is. I do appreciate it. I do like it. I do think she is deserving. I just prefer other stuff. I mean, let me put it this way. When I watched Sinners, I didn't say, oh, that is an Oscar-worthy performance. Yes, Michael Jordan. Yes, Miles Caton. To some degree, yes, Delroy Lindo. Not Wunmi Mosaku. I didn't see it, and I still don't see it. So, yeah, she deserves this nomination. I think she's got an okay chance of actually winning the Oscar. But like I said, I think the BAFTA win was very much to do with her being British. But I'm taking her out because I think Odessa Azion is actually worthy of a nomination. I mean, as I've said already in this video, wasn't the hugest fan of Mighty Supreme, but Odessa Azion's performance as this woman who goes along with what Marty wants. They are connected. I mean, very literally. I mean, the opening scene of Mighty Supreme, very literal connection. And she goes along with it. I mean, she has a slightly more realistic, less dream-like idea of what the world is going to be. She's slightly more practical, but she goes along with Marty anyway. She gets into some really dodgy situations and actually causes some really disturbing things to happen. But you understand her at every point. I mean, she's in a bad situation and she's going to what is a little bit of a better situation. But as I've already said, I mean, Marty's basically a bastard. And yes, he kind of gets redeemed at the end, but is the journey worth it? I'm not sure. But the way that Odessa Azion plays it, I mean, this is a complicated character. All these different layers, all these different things going on. And I think Odessa Azion plays it brilliantly. So yes, I think... I mean, I do appreciate Wanmi Mosaku, and that is one of those performances I think is worthy of nomination. I just preferred Odessa Azion. So I'm keeping Odessa Azion in my personal list of nominees. And when it comes to the winner in this category, again, I think I'm going to go with my heart. I think Nina Hoss is actually the best supporting actress of 2025. I mean, like I said, she is to some degree the core of Hader. And the way she plays it, I mean, the way she has these self-destructive tendencies as well as the external destructive tendencies from Hader. I mean, Hader is actively trying to destroy her. And Nina Hoss is letting her do it to some degree. I mean, it's kind of a tragic and kind of actually an impressive performance. I mean, I do think Nina Hoss is the best supporting actress performance in the 2025 season. Moving on to best supporting actor. And again, I'm making 3 changes in this category. And the first one, I'm just sticking with what I said all along. I always thought that Delroy Lindo was more likely to get nominated out of the Sinners cast because he is a respected actor, the older actor. And when in doubt, the Academy usually goes for the older actor. Judi Dench over Katrina Balfe and Ciarán Hinds over Jamie Dornan in Belfast. Judd Hirsch over Paul Dano in The Fabelmans. There is a history of the older actor in the same film getting the bigger push. So I always thought it was Delroy Lindo. And there's also the factor that he was definitely snubbed a few years ago for Da 5 Bloods. So, yeah, I don't begrudge him this. I just don't think he's that deserving. I think he is a comedy sidekick. He's comic relief. He's a comedy drunk. And that kind of character archetype, are we still doing that in 2025? Yes, he has that the one brilliant speech where he talks about his friend getting lynched. I mean, that's an amazing scene, an amazing monologue. But it's one monologue in a very small role in the grand scheme of things, which is a comedy drunk. So, no, I don't think that is worthy of an Oscar, much as I love Delroy Lindo and think he deserved an Oscar a couple of years ago. But when you compare him in the same film to Miles Caton was the standout for me. I mean, obviously the singing. I mean, being a professional singer, this being his first acting gig, he's got, the soul, the blues in him. But he's also got the acting. I mean, if he wasn't able to get the emotion in his dialogue, in his acting performance, the film wouldn't work. And he managed it. For such an inexperienced and such a young performer, Miles Caton, I think, was much, much more impressive in Sinners than Delroy Lindo was. And I think he should have been the Sinners actor to get this nomination. And while that was somewhat expected, well, no, it wasn't actually. It was jaw-dropping. Then we thought that Delroy Lindo got in and Paul Mescal didn't. That was one of the jaw-dropping moments on nomination day. I just cannot fathom why Paul Mescal didn't get nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I think this is a genuine snub. I do not understand it. I think he's brilliant. I mean, given the structure of the film Hamnet and the novel Hamnet, which I do think is kind of flawed, taking very, very narrow perspectives on the death of Shakespeare's son and its relationship or possible relationship to the play Hamlet, I think it's tenuous at best. But given the scenario we're in, and given the framework of the film, Paul Mescal knocks it out of the park. I think the way that Paul Mescal gives the to be or not to be speech in Hamlet is brilliant. And the interactions that he has with Jessie Buckley, I mean, to some degree, Hamlet is Jessie Buckley crying for 90 minutes, but the emotional core of that is the friction and the conflict between the couple, particularly when Shakespeare is off in London for most of the time and not in Stratford when his son dies. That friction and that conflict, I think it doesn't work if Paul Mescal isn't absolutely bringing it, and he is. I think he absolutely deserved a nomination for supporting actor for Hamlet, particularly when you've got Benicio del Toro, who I'm taking out for Paul Mescal. I mean, it's similar to what I was talking about a little bit ago with Wunmi Mosaku. When I watched One Battle After Another, yes, I saw Sean Penn as an absolute Oscar nominee. Didn't see Benicio del Toro as one. Again, it felt like an eccentric, a comedy character. Even though I think arguably Benicio del Toro is the one competent character in One Battle After Another. As far as I'm concerned, one of the points of One Battle After Another is these people, Leonardo DiCaprio, Tiana Taylor, to some degree Regina Hall, to some degree Chase Infinity, they're not actually that competent. These are the people who are going to cause the revolution, they're going to rescue us all. They're idiots. And that's why we're in the bad situation we're in. That, I think, is one of the points of One Battle After Another. So as I'm concerned, the one person who's actually doing something and actually seems kind of competent is Benicio del Toro, but he's doing it in such an outlandish, such an extravagant way that I didn't connect with it. It didn't feel like an Oscar performance to me at all. So it surprised me when he started getting all these nominations, and I just don't see it. I don't see him as an Oscar-worthy performer. So I'm taking out Benicio del Toro, particularly when you've got somebody, in my opinion, substantially better to take his place in Paul Mescal. And the last alternative nomination I would make is one of those situations where I think who I'm taking out is definitely worthy. I just marginally preferred something else. So I'm taking out Jacob Elordi from Frankenstein, who did win was it the Critics' Choice? I think he won Best Supporting Actor, which was a surprise. And I see it. I mean, I do understand why he got the attention he did, why the take that Guillermo del Toro had for the Frankenstein monster spoke to the voting body. I do think it's genuinely good and genuinely worthy. I just think that Adam Sandler was a bit better. I mean, Adam Sandler, right from the beginning of the process, right from when I started doing acting predictions in these videos, Adam Sandler was always pretty near the top of the list. And Jay Kelly as a film fell away. I mean, Noah Baumbach was expected to get a lot. His director and screenplay didn't. But I actually think that Adam Sandler deserved it. I mean, he's been trying to get Oscar nominated for so long. I mean, arguably he should have got nominated for Punch Drunk Love. People say he should have got nominated for Hidden Gems, but as I said, I didn't like that film. I think he did the film Spaceman as an attempt to get an Oscar nomination, which was a strange choice on many, many different levels. The Meyerowitz Stories, even another Baumbach film. He's been trying for a while, and this time I think he might actually have deserved a nomination, because I think his performance in Jay Kelly is the emotional heart of that. I mean, I think it's Adam Sandler's character who goes on the strongest journey, has the strongest arc in Jay Kelly. George Clooney does learn something over the course of the film, but I don't think he learns as much as his friend/manager Adam Sandler. I mean, realising that his best friend, who he is the manager for, doesn't quite see him in the same way. I mean, I think the key line of dialogue in Jay Kelly is when George Clooney says to Adam Sandler, "Yes, you're my best friend. You're my best friend who takes 15%, because he is his manager." And that gut punch, really, is the core of the film Jay Kelly. And I think Adam Sandler plays it well. I mean, that gradual realisation that he's off on this stupid quest in Europe when he really, really should be with his family back in Los Angeles. I think Adam Sandler's great in Jay Kelly, and I do prefer him over Jacob Elordi, even though I do think Jacob Elordi is worthy, so he is my final alternative nomination. So who I think should win is actually somebody who did get nominated, although right now I don't think he's the favourite, because Sean Penn has been getting a lot of wins recently in the precursors, but I think my choice has always been Stellan Skarsgård. It has been pretty much from the beginning. And as soon as I saw Sentimental Value, I thought, oh yeah, that's a winner. I mean, like I said, I think Sean Penn probably is going to win it. And he would deserve it, but my preference would be for Stellan Skarsgård. I think essentially playing Ingmar Bergman. I think there's so much of Ingmar Bergman in this film, both in the filmmaking and in the character. It says something, it speaks to a particular type of mindset. And Stellan Skarsgård plays it really, really well. I mean, it was incredibly unlikely to happen, but it would have been really, really cool if Stellan Skarsgård had got nominated for Sentimental Value and his son Alexander Skarsgård had been nominated for Pillion. Which I don't think that was entirely out of the realm of possibility. I mean, it's very, very unlikely, but Alexander Skarsgård was really, really good in Pillion. Pillion itself is a brilliant film. But it would have been cool if we had some father-son action in the supporting actor category. But yeah, I think my choice would be Stellan Skarsgård, even though I don't think he's actually going to win. But he did get nominated. So now we move on to the adapted screenplay category. And there are two alternative nominations I would make in this category, and I've kind of talked about them all already. The first one I'm taking out is Train Dreams. As I said earlier, I think it's a mood piece, it's an atmosphere piece. Not a great deal of incident with that one big thing in the middle, but other than that, not a great deal of incident. So as a screenplay, Percy speaking, I would take it out. And I'll put in Header. I mean, I've already talked how much I liked Header and how much the adaptation of Header works. So yeah, that would definitely be my choice to put in as an alternative nomination. And the second one I would take out is Frankenstein. As I've already said, I think it was an unusual adaptation that Guillermo del Toro had, an unusual angle for Frankenstein, which I don't think 100% worked. So yeah, I would take out Frankenstein, particularly when you have something like No Other Choice to come in and take its place. I think the things that No Other Choice says are somewhat similar or somewhat in the same area as Parasite a few years ago. Even though, Percy speaking, I wasn't the hugest fan of Parasite. I actually preferred the Korean film Burning, which came out the same year. The way that No Other Choice deals with male pride and male ego is striking. The macabre and black way that you deal with it, where you're just killing people who might get the job ahead of you simply to get a job. I mean, the self-image you have, I need a job. I need for my family to have me as the breadwinner to get to be employed. The things it says, I mean, the things it says about modern society. I mean, the way that automation is the main reason why there's mass unemployment. I mean, this guy works in a paper factory and it used to employ dozens, if not hundreds of people. But now, thanks to robotics, he's one guy. And that's just the way things are. I mean, so the commentary that No Other Choice makes. I mean, even though it's a book that is decades old at this point, I mean, it's a novel called The Axe, I think. I think it was the 80s or so. I know it was 1997, but still a few decades old. And still very relevant, or the adaptation makes it relevant to modern day Korea and the modern world. It's blackly funny. It really works. So yeah, I think No Other Choice is clever. It's got something to say, and I think it should have been put in as a best adapted screenplay nominee. So yeah, I mean, as I've said many times already, I do think that Header would be my choice in this category. I think the job of adaptation that Nia DaCosta did is extraordinary. I mean, one of the major secondary characters in Hedda Gabler is not in the film. The race of Hedda is mentioned. I mean, it's not a huge part of the thing, but this is not a colourblind film. It is noted that Tessa Thompson is not white, that Hedda is not white, and that it's mentioned at least. The fact that the Nina Hoss character has had the gender switched and the relationship is a former lesbian relationship, and Nia DaCosta changed the ending of the play, and in my opinion made it substantially better. I'm not sure if Henrik Ibsen could have got away with the ending that Nia DaCosta has in 1890s, I think it was, or 1880s. But Nia DaCosta chose to go that direction, and I think it works. So yeah, I think it's a really, really good job of adaptation. and it's also a really good script. I mean, with the complexities, the moral quandaries of this. I mean, how much of a victim, how much of a villain is Hedda? And can we deal with the fact that she's probably both? It's really well done. It's really intricate. I think it's a genuinely brilliant script, and it's a genuinely brilliant film, which not enough people saw. So I'm going to do as much as I can to say, please watch Hedda. It's brilliant. And I do think it's the best adapted screenplay in the 2025 Oscar season. So, moving on to Best Original Screenplay, and there's only one alternative nomination I would make in this category. And again, it is kind of stuff I've talked about already, because I'm taking out Marty Supreme and I'm putting in Sorry Baby. I mean, as I've said multiple times already, I'm just not a fan of Marty Supreme. That kind of filmmaking, that kind of story doesn't necessarily appeal to me that much. And as I've already said, I think having the redemption for Marty right at the end in a somewhat abrupt way, I don't think that actually works very well. So yeah, I would take out Marty Supreme, and I do think that Sorry Baby is a genuinely brilliant script. I think it is unexpected in the ways it deals with its subject matter. The structure of the film is fascinating. I mean, helped greatly by the performance of Eva Victor as well as the direction of Eva Victor. I mean, I'm just so impressed with Eva Victor. Can't wait to see what she does next. I think this is a great film. It was just too small, too independent to get enough eyes on it to actually get into the Oscar nomination list. But I think it was deserving, and that would be my choice. So what would I choose to win this category? It's really hard because I can make very, very strong arguments to say that any of these 5 nominees that I'm listing would win. I mean, Blue Moon is a brilliant example of a script with great pieces of dialogue, an acting showcase for Ethan Hawke playing Lawrence Hart, just talking and it showing his personality, showing his viewpoint just through the dialogue. Great example of that. It Was Just an Accident, as I've already said. You've got the blending of the absurd and the horrific, and that ending, those final few scenes, great. Sentimental Value, the family dynamics, and the stuff about art versus reality, and what do you sacrifice for your art? Do you sacrifice your family for your art? All of that is really interesting, really heady stuff. Sinners, so many themes, so many layers to it. And as I've just said, Sorry Baby, it's got lots of unexpected directions it takes. I mean, I really could make a very strong argument for any of these to win. Sinners, I'm going to say Sinners. I think the amount of layers, the amount of themes that are there, and also just being, a really freaky horror film, as well as having all the content of it. I mean, it's Sinners. I think that is probably what I would say deserves to win. So now we come to Best Animated Feature, and all too often this just comes down to Disney and Pixar. I mean, yes, that is starting to change. I mean, obviously, Flow winning last year, personally, that was a jaw-dropping moment to me. especially since I didn't actually particularly like Flow that much. And within recent memory, we've had The Boy and the Heron winning as well. So, I mean, the hegemony of Disney and Pixar, and to some degree DreamWorks, is starting to fall away. But we still have a lot of Disney and Pixar stuff in the running. And it doesn't always deserve it. And this is going to be reflected in what I'm taking out, because the first film I'm taking out is Elio. I think Elio is not classic Pixar, particularly because they polished all the queer off it. The idea came from a queer Latin man, and he got kicked off his own project, which is somewhat based on his own childhood as a queer Latin man growing up on military bases and not fitting in. So they gave it to women who, to the best of my knowledge, are not queer and are definitely not Latin. And they polished all the queer off it. And it's fine. It's enjoyable. But it could have been, should have been so much more. So take the mainstream Pixar film out and shove an independent film in, an international film in. This is actually another film from Latvia, like Flow was last year. It's a film called Dog of God, which is a rotoscoped animation. That's the technique where you take films and then draw over the cells. It's got a very unique feel and style to it. And this is also a very adult animation. It does have quite a bit of nudity, quite a bit of drug use, quite a bit of sex. I mean, there's an orgy at the end of this film, but it does have a point. And in my mind, the point is well enough made that yes, it's a bit provocative, but I really think Dog of God is an excellent film. It's mostly about repression, sexual repression, gender repression, and religious repression. Because, I mean, within 17th century Livonia, modern day Latvia, which at the time was ruled by the Kingdom of Sweden, but the aristocrats spoke German. And there's a witch trial going on because the local priest decides that the local barmaid, who is, a wise woman here who knows the herbs, knows the mushrooms, she's a witch and must be stopped, must be destroyed because she's a woman and she's not a Christian, or not enough of a Christian anyway. So let's put her on trial for witchcraft. And then a werewolf shows up, or somebody who claims to be a werewolf, and this is loosely based, loosely inspired by a real story. The best documented case in European history of a werewolf in a legal court context. This really happened. And it is loosely based, loosely inspired on this real story. And it's off the wall. It's psychedelic. It's, like I said, a lot of sex, nudity, drugs, all that kind of stuff, and an orgy. But its themes about religious, gender, and sexual repression, I think it really, really works. I mean, I don't think Dog of God is widely available. I saw it at a film festival. I really, really hope that people get the chance to see this, because of the 35 official submissions or films that were eligible for the animated feature Oscar, I really, really liked Dog of God. The second alternative nomination I would make, I mean, similarly to the first one, I'm taking out the Disney film. I'm taking out Zootopia 2, or as it's known here in the UK, Zootropolis 2. It was fine. in my opinion, it's not nearly as good as the first Zootopia, which I think is a genuinely brilliant allegory and satire on race relations. I think Zootopia 2 is a little bit more subtle because it's essentially about redlining, which isn't as accessible maybe as the first one was, and I just don't think it's quite as good. So I'm taking out Zootopia 2. When it came time to put something in, I had a couple of options that I was toying with. When you have an animated feature, do you go for something that's a really good story, a really good film? Or do you go for something that's a really good experience? Maybe something visually unusual, visually exciting? At the end of the day, I decided to go for something visually exciting. So I could have selected the Japanese anime 100 meters, which I think is a brilliant story about two high school students who run the 100 meters, and they grow up together and they have a rivalry throughout the course of their life. And what does it mean to dedicate your life to this one single pursuit? At the end of the day, is it worth it? Is kind of what the plot of 100 meters is. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a brilliant film, but good though the animation is, you could absolutely make exactly that film in live action. So did it need to be animated? Other than the fact it's based on a manga, probably not. So instead, I went for another international feature, a film from the Dominican Republic called Olivia and the Clouds, which is absolute chaos. It's got so many different styles, so many different things going on in it. A very surreal idea. I mean, a woman who has a man in a trunk under her bed and periodically brings him out. So it might be the same man who also has a plant woman growing in his apartment. I mean, he goes up and kisses a random woman in the street, which you absolutely should not do. But after kissing this woman, he coughs something up and it spits out into a plant pot, and it grows into this plant that's also a woman, and they kind of have a relationship, or do they? And is it the same woman who was in the first one? I mean, it's strange. There's so many different styles. Cell drawn animation. There's a little bit of stop motion animation. There's unusual backgrounds. I mean, some things have leaves and plants and dirt as the backgrounds that it is being animated on. It's wild and thrilling, and it's a visual feast. There's so much going on. It's so impressive. And yeah, I think as an animated feature, I really liked Olivia and the Clouds. But if you want story, then go for 100 meters. And there's plenty of other stuff. I mean, there were 35 films that were eligible for the animated feature. Not all of them were Disney and Pixar or DreamWorks. There's some really fascinating, really good animated stuff out there. I mean, that's not even including the fact that Deja 2 wasn't even submitted, which was a bizarre choice by the Chinese producers. And also Lesbian Space Princess wasn't submitted. That is a very, very enjoyable animated film. Oh, and I should also say that in this entire video that I'm recording now, the one film I was not able to see, which I maybe should have and wanted to, was Mamoru Hosoda's new film Scarlet. I have not been able to see that yet. I'm actually just bought a ticket to it. It's coming out in a preview next Tuesday, but I need to get this done. So it is a caveat that maybe Scarlet would have ended up as one of my personal nominees. Although, to be honest, I'm not always a fan of Mamoru Hosoda's work, even though he is a highly respected animation director. But with the caveat that I have not yet seen Scarlet, these are the 5 nominees that I personally would have made. And yeah, we've ended up with 4 international art house films, 2 from France, 1 from the Dominican Republic, and 1 from Latvia, and a mainstream popular animated film which was a gigantic hit on Netflix. And that's the one I think should win. I genuinely think that K-pop Demon Hunters is the best animated feature of 2025. It was a phenomenon, and it deserved to be a phenomenon. So, yeah, there we go. I think it's another film which has those. I mean, yeah, on one level, it's just about a K-pop band. I mean, the songs are very good and very catchy, but the themes of self-belief and self-expression and not hiding who you are and not being ashamed of who you are, all of that is there. I mean, to some degree, a lot of animated features do that kind of stuff, but K-pop Demon Hunters did it so well. It's so well done. But yeah, I genuinely think that the mainstream big one deserves to win, even though I've shoved in films from the Dominican Republic and Latvia. For me, K-pop Demon Hunters is the best animated feature of 2025. So now we come to best documentary feature, which is more often than not a depression fest. The films that get nominated for documentary feature and the films that win documentary feature are often really, really heavy going. And I'm actually going to continue that trend because there's one alternative nomination I would make, and I'm taking out one of the more positive documentary features in this. Oh, yes, there's some harsh stuff in there, but it's somewhat uplifting, somewhat hopeful by the end. I'm taking out the documentary Cutting Through Rocks, which is a documentary about an Iranian woman in a remote rural part of Iran who is the first woman ever elected to a village council, trying to break the misogynistic patriarchy, trying to encourage these 12, 13, 14-year-old girls to not get married as they're expected to do. And not entirely succeeding, and I think that's one of the minor issues I have with Cutting Through Rocks. I think this woman, Sarah Shavadi, is an amazing woman, but she's kind of like a bull in a china shop. I mean, she's going, do it now, we must do this, instant change should happen now, when I think you would have had a more success if you tried a bit more gradually. That's a minor issue I have with the personality of the subject, and I do think it's a great documentary, but I wouldn't say preferred, but I think 2,000 Meters to Andreevka, it just needs to be talked about. It needs to be seen if you think you can cope with it, because this is quite possibly the most depressing film I have ever seen. Ever. The utter futility of war, the way that hundreds of Ukrainian men are dying to get these 2 kilometers to this little village, Andreevka, which, I mean, yes, it's strategically important for the war, but to what end? Is any of this worth it? Is any of this sustainable? Probably not. I have never seen a film which so absolutely demonstrates the utter futility of war. It is horrifically depressing, but I do think it's an important piece of journalism. I mean, it's the same guy who did 20 Days of Mariupol, which won a few years ago. And it's just as hard hitting and just as affecting. So, yeah, it's depressing as fuck, but I do think it needed to be in the nomination list. And out of my personal nominees, I think my favourite, I think the one that deserves to win, is actually the other one which deals with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, but from the opposite angle. Mr. Nobody Against Putin is about a high school teacher who starts videoing his high school in a small, industrial, heavily polluted town in Russia. According to the UN, it's the most polluted town in the world. And the high school just turns into a militaristic cannon fodder factory. Everybody's expected to be, sing patriotic songs and march and salute the flag and all this kind of stuff. And you observe with horror how this high school is just turned into a factory to create soldiers. And there's very little you can do to stop it. And this guy documents it with a little bit of humour, but just growing dread. And it's horrifying seeing how this goes. And I do think it's the best documentary out of this list. So, yeah, my choice would be Mr. Nobody Against Putin. And the final category I'm going to be talking about in this video is the best international feature. And I'm only going off the 15 film long list, as I was only going off the 15 film long list for a documentary feature as well. And yeah, I mean, the first one I'm taking out is no surprise. I've already said I'm not a fan of The Secret Agent. I just wasn't impressed with it. And it's also, I guess, not much of a surprise that I'm putting in No Other Choice. I mean, I think it's one of the best adapted screenplays of the year. Why shouldn't it be one of the best international features of the year? I think it's exploration of male ego and modern industry is really great. So yeah, No Other Choice is a dark and compelling film, and I think it's better than The Secret Agent. I think it deserves to be in the nomination list. And the second one I'm taking out is kind of a personal choice. I mean, this is a film which has got a lot of high profile. It co-won the jury prize at the 2025 Cannes Film Festival with the German entry, The Sound of Falling. But the Spanish film Sirat, I didn't think all that much of it. I think it's aiming for a transcendent experience, quite literally, because it's very much based around trance music and the rave scene in Northern Africa. And I think it is a journey. It is the idea. It's a road trip to some degree. And the title Sirat, it comes from Islamic mythology. It's basically the border between life and death. And that's kind of some of the concepts that we're dealing with here. So I mean, it is a metaphysical journey, which I don't think actually has a destination. And I kind of would have liked one. So yes, Sirat didn't work for me. But what did work for me is the Argentinian film Belen, which I don't think has quite as high a profile, even though it is easily accessible. I mean, it's ended up on Prime Video, so you more than likely will be able to watch the film Belen, and I do recommend it because I think it's actually rather good. it deals with a literal miscarriage of justice, where a woman goes to hospital with stomach pains, and it emerges that she is having a miscarriage. But the hospital authorities and eventually the police arrest her because she supposedly has the hallmarks of having had an illegal abortion. And this is in the early 2000s, so not all that far long ago, and abortion was still illegal in Argentina. So this woman is arrested and spends several years in jail for having a miscarriage. I mean, and there's some evidence that the fetus that was found in the toilets of this hospital might not even have been hers. It feels like, and it seems like, at least according to the film, the police seriously fucked up. But because, it's a hot button issue and there was public outcry, abortion must be stopped, they went far too far, far too quickly. And this woman spent years in jail for having a miscarriage. And this is about the campaign to get her out and the campaigning lawyer who helped her. And eventually this was the case that kind of broke the illegality of abortion in Argentina. And it's an interesting film. I mean, it very much reminded me of Spotlight. I mean, it's kind of like that investigative thing, people doing the work, the process of getting this story told. I mean, it's a little bit different because it's a legal case rather than a journalism thing, but it felt like Spotlight, and it reminded me of Spotlight in a very good way. So yeah, do check out the film Belen. I think of the 15 films, I think that's the one that deserves the fifth slot, even though I really, really did like Left-Handed Girl from Taiwan, Late Shift from Switzerland, and The President's Cake from Iraq. I think those are all really, really nice, really, really charming films. Maybe not awards-worthy great, but I thoroughly recommend those films as well that were on the 15-film long list. So, yeah, there's the list of my personal nominees, and it was my best picture of the year, so it's also going to be my best international feature of the year. It was Just an Accident from France. Even though it's an Iranian film, and the international feature category is so messed up. It's got so many issues with it. I've been planning and thinking about doing a video about the international feature Oscars for such a long time. I'm gonna have to get around to it eventually. But suffice it to say that it's a very, very messy, very, very problematic system. And the fact that France had to submit this film the year after Germany submitted another Iranian film, Seed of the Sacred Fig, last year. It's kind of absurd, but I do think out of these 15 shortlisted films, It Was Just an Accident from France is the one that should win. So, there we have it. There are my snubs for the 2026 Oscars. Some snubs, some stuff I just preferred marginally over other stuff. But talking about a lot of films and performances, I'm going to be doing a full preview of the entire Oscar ceremony, going through all the categories, saying what I think will win and what I think should win out of what actually got nominated, rather than these my personal choices. And you've had a preview of some categories where my personal winner actually did get nominated. So yeah, that's another video which is coming, and I'm also going to be reacting to the Oscar ceremony as well, as I've done for the last few years. And after that, in the near future, I'm going to start doing my previews and predictions for the 2027 Oscars. I'm going to probably start doing that about April, once the full lineup for the Cannes Film Festival is announced. That's when I started doing it last year, so I'll do the same thing this year. So plenty of content on this channel, lots of Oscar related stuff, lots of film reactions, lots of TV reactions. I'm still doing my Charmed TV reactions. Have a look around, you might find something you like. If you've watched this far into this video, maybe I deserve a like. You can also leave a comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do anything which helps the algorithm promote this tiny little channel. But for right now, I think that is where I leave you. So, all that remains for me to say is this has been a presentation of the Yay, Nay or Meh channel, and I'll see you next time where I shine a light on TV and cinema, both obvious and obscure.